Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling one of the most, well, critical and high-stakes areas in professional practice.
We really are. We're talking about the absolute requirements for ensuring equality and non-discrimination in UK medicine.
We've compiled a formidable stack of sources here. We've got essential exam-focused breakdowns, legal context from the Equality Act 2010, and, I think most importantly, the clear, non-negotiable action frameworks from the GMC.
Right, and these are the principles that don't just protect patients. They really define your professional integrity.
Well, let's just jump right in with the kind of tense dilemma you might face tomorrow. The kind of thing that really separates high-scoring judgment from, well, low-scoring indecision.
Go on.
Okay, imagine this. You overhear a colleague making overtly derogatory comments about a patient's faith. Or maybe a receptionist states, "We don't book professional interpreters here, just ask the relative to translate." What is the immediate professional high-scoring action you have to take in that moment?
That moment of intervention is exactly what this is all about. Our mission today is to transform these moderate to hard duties from the Equality Act and good medical practice into a clear, practical, stepwise framework.
A system, really?
A system, exactly. One that ensures the patient is protected immediately, that equitable access is restored, and that, crucially, systemic learning happens from it.
So what's the one-sentence truth here?
The central truth we're going to unpack is this. Your duty is to give fair, needs-based care, challenge bias immediately, arrange the necessary adjustments, and then you have to document and escalate it through the proper policy route. That's how you fix the system.
Right, so that immediately establishes a mindset of zero tolerance and active intervention. Now, looking at our sources, this topic is always rated high frequency and moderate to hard. Why is this so pivotal? For exams like the MSRA, SJT, but also just for a medical career in general.
Well, because the stakes are existential. This isn't just about being polite. This is about fulfilling your fundamental GMC duties. It's about ensuring patient safety, both physical and psychological, and maintaining the absolute bedrock of public trust in the NHS.
And if you fail to act?
If you fail to act when you see bias or discrimination, you compromise all three of those things. The expectation is crystal clear. Zero tolerance, active intervention to adjust care, immediate challenge, and formal recording.
So to anchor this, what are the core GMC principles we need to keep in mind?
First, fairness. You must treat all patients equally and always prioritize care based purely on clinical need. No exceptions.
And the second?
The second is a major red flag. You must never refuse or delay care simply because you disagree with a patient's choices or their beliefs or lifestyle. That is an explicit professional prohibition.
And the legal scaffold for all of this is the Equality Act 2010. We have to be crystal clear on those 9 protected characteristics, don't we?
Absolutely. Those are age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex, and sexual orientation.
And discrimination against any of those.
Unlawful, unfavorable treatment based on any of those characteristics, it doesn't just hurt the patient. It directly undermines the entire framework of safe, accessible healthcare.
We've established the duty to act, but let's look closer at how discrimination actually shows up. It's not always the obvious, direct kind of comment, is it?
No, not at all. You have direct discrimination, which is the obvious one, treating someone less favorably because of a protected characteristic. Then there's harassment and victimization. But the one that I think is most challenging in a high-pressure systemic environment is indirect discrimination.
Right, indirect discrimination. That's where the nuance really lives, isn't it? It's when a policy or a practice seems neutral, it applies to everyone, but it ends up disadvantaging a specific group. Can you give us a concrete example?
The sources are really good on this. So think about the move towards digital accessibility. A trust might decide to institute a one-size-fits-all policy, say requiring all appointment bookings to be handled exclusively through an online portal or a smartphone app.
Which sounds neutral on the surface.
It sounds totally neutral. Everyone has to use the app. But it indirectly discriminates. It disproportionately disadvantages older patients, so age, patients with certain learning disabilities, or even patients who can't afford the tech, which often links to race or disability.
So if I'm a junior doctor and I notice this new all-digital booking system is causing chaos for my elderly patients, my professional duty isn't just to sort of sigh and carry on.
Exactly. Your duty is to challenge that systemic barrier. And this is where the public sector equality duty, or PSED, comes into play.
What does that mean in practice?
It means public bodies, like the NHS, can't just avoid discriminating. They have to proactively work to eliminate discrimination and advance equality. So you noticing that barrier, reporting it, advocating for alternatives like a phone line. That is you, as a doctor, fulfilling that PSED requirement on the ground.
That makes perfect sense. The duty is about making sure the system itself is fair, not just my individual interactions. So, knowing this, if we witness an incident, what's the simplest, most memorable way to structure our response?
We need a stepwise approach, one that ensures safety and accountability. This is the framework that scores points because it prioritizes immediate patient protection and then ensures the system learns.
Okay, what's step one?
Step one is spot and stop.
Yeah.
You have to challenge discriminatory remarks or behavior, courteously but clearly, and immediately support the person who's been affected. That's the urgent intervention that stops the ongoing harm.
I appreciate the clarity of spot and stop, but let's just pause on the real-world challenge there. What if I see a powerful senior colleague or a manager making that remark? Does courteous but clear still apply when there's a massive power imbalance?
That is a fantastic question, and it's a really high-scoring nuance. Yes, courteous but clear absolutely applies to the immediate intervention. You need to stop the harm without escalating it into a huge conflict that might distress the patient even more.
So what would that sound like?
Something like, Dr. Smith, that language isn't acceptable here. Let's refocus on the patient's care. But, and this is crucial, your duty doesn't end there. After that immediate step, you move on to the next parts of the framework.
Which is step two.
Step 2. Adjust and include. Assess the patient's immediate needs and arrange whatever reasonable adjustments are necessary to continue care safely and fairly. This is usually things like accessible information formats or, very often, arranging a professional interpreter.
Okay, so spot and stop, adjust and include, then what?
Step 3. Escalate and record. This is the accountability step. You must follow local policy, use your incident reporting system like Datix, and log the objective facts. You document your actions and escalate it to the right manager.
And the final step.
Step 4 is reflect and learn. Share the learning within your team and personally reflect on how processes can be improved so it doesn't happen again.
That's a really powerful chain of command. And the sources give us some memory hooks for this. For the immediate response, there's the mnemonic AIR.
That's right. Find facts, address behavior, include adjustments, and record and refer.
And for the bigger picture, the 4 T's.
Exactly. Treat fairly, tackle bias, tailor access, and track outcomes. They really encapsulate that active, proactive mindset that GMC requires.
Let's drill down into that communication barrier because that feels like such a common failure point. The hook we started with mentioned a receptionist saying, "Don't book an interpreter." We need to know exactly how to handle this under the Accessible Information Standard.
Right, the AIS is a non-negotiable legal duty in the NHS. Services have to identify, record, flag, meet, and review the communication needs of patients. If a patient needs BSL or Braille or an interpreter, you have to provide it.
So let's say I'm a junior doctor and the receptionist or even a nurse manager says, "We don't do that here, it's too expensive," and I arrange a professional interpreter anyway. Am I causing trouble or is the law on my side?
The law and your GMC duty are entirely on your side. High-scoring actions require you to remove that barrier immediately, which means arranging the professional interpreter now. The low-scoring trap is just going along with a bad local custom.
So my professional duty overrides a broken local protocol.
It does. You are providing safe care that's compliant with the AIS. The model phrase you should have in your head is, I am arranging a professional interpreter and accessible information today.
And the absolute red flag here, the guaranteed low score,
Is asking the patient's child, spouse, or any relative to interpret.
why is that so bad?
It's a complete professional failure. You risk catastrophic inaccuracy, you introduce potential coercion or privacy breaches, and it totally fails the Accessible Information Standard. It is not a professional standard of communication, full stop.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, the trap answers. Because they often seem like the easiest or maybe the most polite thing to do in the moment. We need to dissect exactly why these low-scoring options are actually professional failures.
Yes, we have to be merciless in spotting these. They appeal to fear or conflict avoidance or a sense of efficiency, but they all breach a fundamental duty.
So what's trap number 1?
Trap 1. Ignore the comments to keep the peace. This is maybe the worst. Why? Because ignoring discrimination breaches your clear duty to raise concerns and act on harm. You basically become complicit. This isn't just a low score, it could even be a fitness to practice issue.
Right, what's next?
Trap 2. Ask the family member to interpret instead. We've covered this, but the failure is twofold. It's substandard, unsafe care, and it fails your statutory duty under the AIs.
Prop 3.
Delay care because you disagree with the patient's choices. This is that explicit major red flag we mentioned. It shows you prioritized your personal bias over the patient's clinical need. That is strictly prohibited.
And the last one.
Trap 4. Send a vague email to the colleague and wait. This fails the immediacy test. Patient protection has to happen now. Escalation needs to be formal, it needs to be auditable through DATIX or an incident form, not just an informal chat.
So the difference between a high score and a low score is that combination of immediate action plus creating an immediate auditable trail?
Precisely. The highest score always involves immediate patient protection, followed by robust governance. We should internalize those quick decision patterns.
Let's do a quick fire round. If you see prejudice or abusive remarks are made.
Stop the behavior immediately, ensure the patient is safe, and report formally via governance.
If there's an immediate barrier to access, like no interpreter.
Arrange professional support or an adjustment now, even if it challenges a local custom.
If there's a refusal or delay of care based on lifestyle or beliefs.
Intervene. Prioritize the patient purely by clinical need and address the colleague's conduct separately and formally.
And if a policy is causing indirect exclusion, like online-only booking,
challenge that policy via your clinical lead and suggest reasonable, inclusive alternatives.
That brings us to the end of this deep dive. The clarity there is, I think, invaluable. Let's quickly summarize the absolute key takeaways that you need to remember.
Let's do it.
First, fair care is needs-based, never preference-based. Your personal views must not influence your clinical decisions.
Couldn't agree more.
Second, challenge discriminatory behavior immediately and safely, and make sure you support the patient who is affected before you do anything else.
The patient always comes first.
And third, always provide reasonable adjustments, especially professional interpreters or accessible formats, to remove those barriers to care. You have to fulfill the accessible information standard.
And if I could add one final thought that connects all this together, remember that the highest scoring actions involve not just being a good individual doctor, but ensuring you enable systemic change.
By creating that auditable trail.
Exactly. The documentation, the DATIX report, the escalation, that's how you move from just stopping immediate harm to fulfilling your wider duty to prevent it from happening again. That's the mark of a doctor who truly champions equitable care.
A perfect final thought.
And for anyone who wants more of this kind of high-yield, exam-focused learning, especially on these critical decision-making frameworks, I'd suggest looking into the resources available at pastmsra.com.
Fantastic. Knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and can be applied under pressure. Thank you for joining us for this crucial deep dive. We'll see you next time.